And we have a half-day session that is kind of shock and awe. We take about 25% of all management and we really wake them up as to the disruption that's coming. Then we take 15, 20 young leaders, future lieutenants, and they divide into two streams. One stream is looking at what disruptive startups at the edge should they be building to create a 10x bigger outcome for the organization. And the second stream is looking at how do they upgrade the mothership using the EXO model. We piloted it with Procter & Gamble a couple of years ago, profoundly successfully. We now run it 6 or 7 times, and we're so excited about it that we're actually going to write a manual, and in very shortly we'll be releasing that, where anybody can take this manual and apply it to their own organization. My current thesis is that every single one of the Global 5,000 has to go through this process with or without us. And if the value proposition is let's move your leadership, culture, management thinking 2.5 years ahead in 10 weeks, how can you afford not to do that? So the biggest takeaway from some of the companies that run the sprint are about probably 3 things. One is they're launching radical new ideas at the edge, and 95% of them are getting fully funded by the mothership, which is new. The second is it's suppressing the immune system response, where the company normally would attack new initiatives, but we're seeing that not happen. The third is they're reporting they're getting at least 10x the value of the cost of the sprint back, which is what our value proposition is. If we charge X amount, we want to deliver at least 10x amount of value to the client organization. And we're finding we're actually successfully doing that. So we're very, very thrilled about the outcome. And all these companies are willing to talk to whoever wants to talk about it. We've got some really core customer evangelists on. Procter & Gamble has actually come on sales calls with us because they're so excited about the results of it. And when do you see that happening? And so we're very, very thrilled and really optimistic about where the future is in this. So the exponential quotient diagnostic is a diagnostic test where we ask 25 questions where you can grade your organization from 1 to 4, and each one metric on how flexible and adaptable is your organization. We launched this a couple of years ago, and we actually did a segment on CNBC where we announced a ranking of the Fortune 100 ranked by their EXQ, or the exponential quotient. And what we found since then, 2 years on, is that the top 10 most flexible companies have outperformed the S&P by 3 times. And so we have now direct proof that the more flexible your organization is, the better your stock performance is, which kind of makes sense. As the external world becomes more volatile, your ability to adapt is going to drive market performance. Right? And so it's really necessary today to do this. And if you're going to kind of say something, oh, we want to make transformational change, you really want to be able to measure it. You want to be able to say, here's how you actually quantify this so that you know where you are and where you want to get to. And so that's the basis behind the EXQ. The announcement we made was to rank the FTSE 100 by their EXQ score. So a couple of years ago, when we did the Fortune 100, in partnership with Hult University, we took their MBA students who helped do the basic raw research for this, and we came up with a scoring mechanism and applied that to the FTSE 100. So we now have a ranking of all of the FTSE 100 companies by how flexible and adaptable they are. What we found is, unsurprisingly to some extent, that they tend to score much lower, i.e. in that they're much less flexible than the Fortune 100, certainly less than the top 10 kind of technology companies that we may be familiar with, like Google, Apple, Facebook, and so on. In fact, it's a score of 55 or more gives you the title of being an exponential company. 8% of the Fortune 100 could be considered that, but only 1 out of the 100 in the FTSE 100 is. The number 1 was actually Vodafone. And so congratulations to those folks. And so now that gives us a real imperative to say to these industries and these companies, you really need to figure this out, because if you don't, you will be eaten alive by the changing marketplace because you're not adapting to the marketplace as quickly enough.